Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeff Green, and today I'm here to interview Wayne Patterson, president of Team Up for Hope, also realtor extraordinaire, and many other roles in his life. Wayne, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Wayne, what is it that led you to ultimately take on this role of president with Team Up for Hope?
Wow. It goes back. I happen to be a KSAC trainee. That's a credentialed alcoholism and substance abuse counselor in training. And I learned during that training that everything stems back to the different stages of development in our lives. Everything that we're doing today has something to do that happened, many, many years ago in our lives. And when you ask me that question, I can't help but think of when I was around 7, 8, or 9. It was in that window because my mother, whose name was Shirley, had a friend whose name was Shirley. And as a kid, when you have people that have the same name, that's always kind of like, ooh, it's kind of funny and silly.
Sure.
And we used to go to their home, and they had 3 children, and it was just myself. And the other Shirley had 3 children, a young guy that was around my age, so he and I bonded immediately. They had another son that was older, so he would never let us in his room because he was too cool to be hanging out with, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And he was only like 2 or 3 years older than us, but it makes a difference when you're young.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
And then there was a younger daughter, who Leslie, and we'd go by the house, and of course Leslie always wanted to play with us, and I noticed right away that she was different, and her face didn't look the same and my friend's name was David, so David and we'd be playing in the room, and she'd come and want to kind of hang out with us. And she, like I said, she was different. And the difference was she didn't speak well. She spoke and mumbled a little bit, and her face was a little distorted and different than ours. And to just cut to the chase on that, she was something back then, a term that was used, was mentally retarded. It's a horrible, horrible term that we don't use today, but 50, 60 years ago, it was a common term that was used for people that had that condition. And what amazed me was because she was different and couldn't communicate well, I saw the love and compassion that David, my friend, showed to her, and the patience and the kindness.
The brother that you were friends with. Is that
yes,
what you mean?
And I never experienced anything. And I was like, wow, when you're in the playground and you're out playing with your friends, anybody that was different, you made fun of. People that didn't wear the same clothes and didn't have the Converses or the Pumas back then, you weren't cool. Well, actually, it was pro kids back then. You didn't have the pro kids. You weren't cool. You couldn't hang. We couldn't talk to you. And here I am in an environment with somebody that's different and couldn't speak well and mumbled and just. And there was love, and I said, wow. And I loved her immediately. And she always called me. She said, Wayne, and she would come and rub and hug me, and I was like, it was like, it hit my heart,
Well, I'm sure it wasn't easy for her to find friends.
Well, yes. And we did become friends, and we went by for many years to the other Shirley's house. And I always looked forward to seeing Leslie, and she would always run and hug me, Wayne. And
so it was an awareness.
It was my first interaction with what I know today was mental illness. It was a challenge and something I experienced, and it opened my eyes to realize everybody's different. People are different, and you could still love and you could still communicate. And that stayed in my heart until this day. And so the years went by, and we stopped going by Shirley's house. And I moved on with my life, and I, went to, of course, went to high school and ended up going to college, and I attended Iona College in New Rochelle in Westchester. And I decided, because I was always engaged with clubs, even in high school, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details of what I was involved with. But I got to high school and I became the class representative, and I became, like a vice president of a certain club. And
of course you did.
right, it was just what I
Not surprised.
did. And
Sure.
and I said, let me get involved with Special Olympics, because I remember Leslie, and I remember that experience. And that went on, and the bus pulls up. This is my first day at Special Olympics. And I'm there, and I'm waiting for the kids to get off the bus. There's a group of us that had volunteered to do this. And who gets off the bus?
Leslie.
And I see her, but she doesn't see me. And she has 2 and 3 of her little posse, and they're, they're like 3 guys and her. And they come over, get out, and they walk over to the field, and she sees me. And she sees me, and she immediately says, Wayne, and she comes running to me.
Yeah.
And even as I share it now, tears come to my eyes.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was why I was there in the first place, was because of her. And here we were. It had to have been, 17 years later, or 15 years later, somewhere around there. And boom, here she is in my life. And she hugged me and introduced her friends to me, and they wanted to play basketball and they wanted to play baseball, and we did it all. And they were horrible. They were horrible at it. But what I learned, they gave it the best shot
they could. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I actually, it came to a changing point in my life where I was a basket case with her. Every time I saw her, I cried. Every time I saw them try really hard, I cried. And I wasn't doing them any good, because, and I realized working on the front line would be difficult for me.
That's interesting.
And I had to find efforts that I would do in my life where I was in the background, supporting, promoting, bringing awareness. But I couldn't get to front line because I was just too sensitive, and I was a softie. I would just get too emotionally involved. And at the same time, I had to stop that period because I was looking at my friends. Then I'd leave them, go to my friends who were complaining about maxing out their visa and how they couldn't pay their American Express, and they didn't want to study and they didn't want to do this. Yet they had the abilities and the capabilities of becoming anything in the world they could become. And they were whining and crying. And I had no sympathy because I just came from some folks that didn't have a chance, for the most part, to be in the mainstream like you and I. Now, that was back then. We've made so many headways since then, with and progress in that area. But back then, we just thought they didn't have really a chance to be normal, so to speak. So I was being rude to my friends and didn't have any sympathy for them. I couldn't work with Leslie anymore. I had to kind of get it in control with how I would deal with human beings. And from that day forward, I always focused on and was always interested in organizations that were focused on wellness and betterment and awareness, and and that kind of led me to today and becoming the president of Team Up for Hope. And there's been many years of efforts and time with different organizations, but That was a long story to answer your question. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that, for those who maybe are hearing about Team Up for Hope the first time, we are a charitable 501c3 organization that focuses on mental illness, substance use and addiction, and suicide. And ultimately, what we do is just try to bring awareness and support the organizations that are on the front lines. And that's, why it's such a good fit for Wayne, who's our new president. And Wayne has been involved and really is a co-founder of the organization. He's newly accepted the role of president. But what we were trying to get across here is, we're kind of behind the scenes, just helping organizations bring awareness to these issues. Talking with anybody that's willing to talk about their experiences, to highlight them and to celebrate them and what they've been able to overcome in their lives. So that's really what our role is, and to ultimately donate money to organizations that really could use the money. A lot of people who are in our circles don't really know where to begin. A lot of people are passionate about substance use and suicide and mental illness, but they don't really know what to do or where to make an impact. So we can help people. We can kind of be the grease on the wheels, if you will, to help them make their money go to the right places. So that's why a donation to Team Up for Hope is a good thing. We're an all volunteer organization. Every dollar that we generate gets donated out to great organizations around our area and even globally. So Wayne, let's talk a little bit about that. We actually helped out with the Ukraine crisis when the war broke out over there, because there's a true mental health issue. It's a mental health epidemic of epidemic proportions over there, because people are they got run out of their homes. Bombs were coming in and they flooded over to Poland. And I have deep connections to Poland through my good friend Sever Zakshevsky, who I grew up with here in Warwick. And they were just overwhelmed with Ukrainians coming across the border. So Wayne, talk a little bit about what we did there.
Wow. That was and is and continues to be a powerful, powerful, powerful example of going back to, in our lives, traumatic events in our lives shape our futures. And not only the person that's affected, but all of those around them. The mothers, the fathers, the children, the uncles, the cousins, the friends, the classmates, the co-workers. Everybody's affected when there's a traumatic event that happens to a person. So now you have this traumatic event that occurred in the Ukraine of war, of people that were leaving their possessions and just taking what they could carry in their hands across a country, because the war was for the most part on the west side and some of the central of the Ukraine. They were the east side of the Ukraine, and they were just fleeing west into Poland. And this organization was housing and finding employment and finding actually therapists for many of these. And most of the people that were fleeing over were women and children, because the men, if you were over 16, you had to stay and fight. So here it is, a mother leaves her son, a woman leaves her husband, a child leaves their father, and they flee to another country with a different lifestyle and that's a traumatic experience. And that trauma, we're not going to see the effects of that for years and years and years to come. And of course, this is not the first war that's happened in the world. So it's been an issue for many, many, many years. And these families are traumatized. And I have to say this, when I was interviewing the woman, and she was the woman, Asa, that was fine.
Yeah.
Asha, that was kind of accepting the refugees into her world, and they were trying to find housing and employment. And I was asking, what about medical? Were there issues with medical? I was thinking that maybe some of the men were coming over injured from war. Some of the women and children were coming over injured from war. They says, no, the biggest problem we had to deal with were women that were coming over that were impregnated from the Russian soldiers. And they were in a country now, Poland, that had zero tolerance for abortion. Right? Now, talking about a traumatic event, just being raped, I can't even relate to the trauma that goes on there, but then being impregnated and having a child that you can't afford at the same time. I mean, where is that? What kind of mental illness is that family going to have? You know, and so, you know, I don't want to keep on going on, but I could talk for hours about it because it was an interview that was enlightening, full of compassion, kindness, and love. And one thing I'd like to leave with is that, or at least leave with the story with, was that they came over looking to be a value added to the country. They weren't looking to be taken care of. They were looking to come in and add value and to work and to buy homes and get employed and contribute to Poland. So that was enlightening, to say the least, and heart-wrenching with the families that, of course, lost everything. And, you know, and many are looking to go back home, you know, when this thing ends.
Yeah, I'm just going to share a couple images here. This is actually an actual photo taken by my friend Sever, who lives there in Poland, who went to Ukraine after Russian forces kind of left the West. And it's just, you know, remarkable. Like, you see the car driving down the road, right? Like, this could be County Route 1 in Warwick, you know, or any, you know, highway or road in your town. And there's just tanks destroyed on the side of the road. And it's like, you know, that stuff's not going away anytime soon. Like, there's a lot of work that's got to be done to, you know, if this war ends, if they can get back to life, now they have to deal with all this stuff on top, you know. And then you start to think about the municipal work that's got to be redone and all of the time and effort and energy that was spent. And now you see bridges blown up, and it's just, you know, it's a tough situation. We're not going to digress into a whole discussion about the Ukraine, but I think that the point that I'm trying to make, at least that I was driving home, is one of the great things about our organization is that, you know, we're helping people that we're literally connected to, you know, and we happen to have a really good connection to some organization all the way over there in the Ukraine, where we knew that every dollar we were giving them was going to help feed people, was going to help them hire a counselor to deal with the grief and the trauma that people were dealing with. That was real money that we donated to an organization on the ground in the Ukraine, which was really fantastic, you know, and we were just so happy to be able to do it. And of course, we were able to do it because of, you know, people donating to our organization. So we're grateful for every penny that comes in, no matter how large or how small.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about the grassroots nature of our organization, Wayne. I mean, we're small. We're as small as they get, right? Basically,
our grassroots. Yes.
Go ahead. So why don't you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, I heard about Team Up for Hope through Jeff and through some other agents that I knew at now is called Better Homes and Gardens, our real estate green team. But even prior to hearing about Team Up for Hope, I had heard that Jeff, you, had lost a nephew to substance abuse. And right away, my head goes back to my CASAC training and going back to stages of development and trauma that happens in our lives. And someone dying from substance abuse is a traumatic event in the family's lives. It's a loss of life, surely prematurely, to a substance overused, and oh my God, it's happening every day. But it was like in my face from someone that I knew, you, and I've known you, Jeff. We've known each other for, wow, coming on 20 years now.
Yeah.
And my heart, of course, went out to not only you, Jeff, but I knew that it was just more than you. It was your siblings, your parents, your children, the cousins, the friends, the church members, the agents. It just mushrooms to a world of individuals whose hearts just bleed and are broken for the loss of life of someone so young. So I was like, oh my God. And then shortly after that, I was hearing of this Team Up for Hope effort, and I heard that it was kind of created by you, Jeff, with the vision and the mission to focus on, because it all stems from mental illness or trauma to mental illness to escaping with alcohols or drugs, So the nephew that passed, there was something going on in his life that led him to abuse substances, and whether that's known or not, but it was. So here we are now. It's like this horrible circle of trauma in our lives, and then it leads to mental illness in our lives, and us acting out somehow to deal with the horrible situation. And Jeff chose to create Team Up for Hope to help those that are out there that are dealing with trauma in their lives and mental illness and thoughts of suicide and substance use, and to bring awareness and break the stigmas of coming out and talking about it and being willing to share, because it's so important to break that stigma. And we're making progress, not only with Team Up for Hope, but just throughout this community, county, country,
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, right? And it's not necessarily about the progress of Team Up for Hope. It's about the progress of the movement as a whole, breaking the stigma around mental illness specifically, to let people know that, it's prevalent, it's out there. A lot of people deal with it and not even know that they really are mentally ill. And it's hard to get through it. Your experience, Wayne, with Leslie early on in life, I wasn't so aware of my experiences until later in life. But mental illness runs in my family. And until I really knew what it was and how to identify it, I didn't know what to know. But once I became in the know, I then started to go back and like, oh my gosh, I've been, this instance and that instance, and that's why this relationship with that person is hard to deal with, and it's and this is why this person may be into way too much into alcohol and all these different things, so it just all started to kind of fit into the pieces. So yeah, when I lost my nephew Joseph, my sister Amy and I said, we got to do something. We just feel the need to do something, and that's where Team Up for Hope came from. So it
Thank you.
and it's a grassroots thing. It's born out of real life. And we continue with those on our committee who are really passionate about the mission of what it is that we're doing. And we're blessed to have everybody who's still with us on our committee helping us advance the ball here with Team Up for Hope. So let's we're coming short on time, Wayne, but I want to round it out with a little bit more about Wayne Patterson, the man, outside of his Team Up for Hope role. This is one of the most respected real estate professionals in the Orange County, New York area, certainly from my view. I've always admired Wayne. He was in the business, I think, before me. I've been in this now for 17 years. So I don't know when exactly
it's been 18 going on 19.
Right. So Wayne and I kind of came into the business at the same time, and he was, working with a different company than mine, and I was always trying to woo him to come over, and because I just liked the guy so much, and he did a lot of business, and he was always, just a great realtor, and he still is to this day. Life circumstances have happened for Wayne where he's, kind of gone in different directions, but we're going to get Wayne back into the real estate arena on a full-time basis at some point so he can become that, realtor he was in the past. And I want to brag on him because he's never going to do it for himself, right? And I want everybody to know how tremendous of a professional this guy is. And if you're looking for a good realtor in the Orange County area, this is the guy. And obviously you can see he's got a heart of gold. And he carries that through to all of his clients. That I know for sure, because I've spoken with his clients in the past.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so no problem on that. All right, well, Wayne, thanks again, number one, for stepping up to the role of president of Team Up for Hope. Very important role, and already making an impact.
Yes.
You're doing a great job leading this organization for us. We're always going to be here to support you and continue the mission that we have. And thanks for spending time today to let us in on your world a little bit.
It's funny. I immediately, when I think of myself, I don't think. Yes, I'm a realtor. I have my license, and I'm engaged as much as I can at this point in time. But service, which is a part of real estate, is really important. And I've kind of committed my life to service through organizations like Team Up for Hope, the Warwick Valley Prevention Coalition, which, just look that up. It's a great organization working with our youth today and bringing awareness. The Warwick Valley Rotary Club, which is an organization that's community-based and focuses on service of various types throughout the local community and Rotary throughout the world. As a Warwick Lions Club member, and the efforts that they put forward within the community and internationally through Lions International. And as I mentioned, all these organizations, these are organizations that I support. I'm on the board of, I'm behind, as well as Team Up for Hope, because it's close and dear to my heart, because we all make mistakes, and we all have mental illness throughout our life for one reason or another through traumatic experiences.
Correct.
It's how we deal with it, and our ability to listen and reach out and ask for help when you need help. And these organizations do that. And I am still doing it through organizations, and I'm not on the front line because I'm a softie. I am a softie, and I'll just cry if I have to work with your clients, except for realtors. I don't cry with the realtors, I'll say, I don't cry with the real estate clients. I don't cry with them. It's
surprising that you say you're a crier, because I've never seen you shed a tear in the business realm. So I don't want people you have a tough conversation with Wayne, he's going to break down in tears. That doesn't happen.
not when we're negotiating for real estate. No, not enough of my sellers and buyers. I'm negotiating hard, but it's a pleasure, because I've discovered, I've had some illness in my life recently, through cancer and battling that. And just recently had something done to my shoulder, which it's getting better and better. But through self-care, self-love, and through awareness, I've learned to just balance my life. I could do the community service stuff. I could be the president of Team Up for Hope. I can be an active and engaged real estate agent. I could be a friend. I could be many things, because we wear many hats, and there are 24 hours in the day, 168 hours in the week, a lot of time to get a lot done. It just depends on how we choose to use our time. So I thank you for having me today and allowing us to share some of my past. Leslie, oh my God, she'll be a memory forever. And thank you, and through tragedy and trauma, it has brought us you know, Jeff closer together as friends.
No doubt.
So
No
it's a
doubt.
blessing, you know, surely.
Amen. All right.
Yes,
Very
sir.
good, Wayne. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Peace and love,
Okay.
everyone.